Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Seiko 5 Sports SNXS series. It's a reissue of a watch that many of you have probably owned or maybe still do, and it might even be the watch that got you into the hobby in the first place. I have in all three versions of the watch, at least the three current versions, because I'm sure there will be more coming out at some point in time. This is thanks to Gem Bijou in Toronto. They are an authorized dealer for Seiko and many other brands. If you're shopping watches, check them out at gembijou.com. So let's get to it and take a look at the watches. All right. Now, the Seiko 5 line started over 50 years ago, and the SNXS watches these are modeled after have been around a long time, too. You can still find them for sale new, though. Just gave it a search and found a few from the little over 100 USD mark to the 140, 150-ish area. I had one, the SNXS 79, and there's probably a video on that somewhere way back on the channel. I'd love to have had it for comparison, but I'm sure there's some side-by-sides out there. So I was trying to decide which of the three was my favorite, and it's a tough call. I like the black here in the middle. The blue is sportier to me, so I like it for that. And the tan has a neat look, too, a bit more unique. Curious to know what your favorite of the three is, but let's start with the blue here. So just want to walk you through the dial here, and I'll show you some close-ups of the other colors as we do. But the first thing I liked about the watches was the contrasting chaptering. I like that in a watch. I like how it frames the dial. Up top is the applied Seiko and the printed 5 logo, which every time I see that reminds me of the Superman logo. Down at the 6 is the script automatic printed, and over at the 3 o'clock is that day date. The hands are folded. They're polished, but also have a brushed strip down the middle, so they tend to always be easy to see and tell the time no matter what the lighting is. The orange second hand works for me. It goes well with all of the colors. The loom, like usual from Seiko, is good to go. I usually do like to see a loomed second hand, but having the orange second without is a fair trade-off to me. Loom might have messed up the look on that second hand, I think. The loom color, that faux patina look, I wasn't crazy about it when brands first started using it to mimic vintage watches, but nowadays when I see it done right, it feels more of a modern look than vintage. I do prefer white colored loom, but it can be a neat look and it works with these color combinations. The case, I can say, is on another level of finish over the older SNXS models. Seiko mentions that these were made to have a lower center of gravity to help them sit on wrist better. Never heard a watch described quite like that, a watch case, but they do wear comfortably. That being said, it's a fairly weighty watch for a smaller watch. The finish looks good considering the price point, and we do have drilled lugs for easier strap changes. Through the display caseback is the caliber for our 36 movement, so hacking and hand winding. It's a 24 joule movement beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour and with a power reserve of approximately 41 hours. The crown is recessed into the case, and for me, I find it a bit hard to wind. It's just a tad too small for my fingers. Once the crown is out, then setting the time and date isn't so bad. There's a little more metal to get a hold of there. You kind of have to almost run your fingers on the underside of the crown to wind it, but I've been just giving it a little shake, the old Seiko shuffle to get them running. The bracelet is okay. It's better than the older versions of the watch and on par, I'd say, with the modern 5 lineup. Solid end links, but the clasp is still just stamped steel and only 2 micro adjusts on the clasp, but thankfully with the narrower links, you should be able to get a decent fit. Back to this tan version. It's almost a champagne. I'm not sure quite how to describe that color, but the size on the watch comes in at a case width of 37.4 millimeters. Lug to lug is 44.3 millimeters. Lug opening is 18 millimeters, which is a little thin for my wrist size. And if you're like me, most of my straps are 20 or 22s. So if you like to swap straps, that could be an issue for you. Thickness on the watch is 12.8 millimeters with the domed hardlex crystal. And with the crystal being domed, you could end up scratching it over time with it being more exposed than a flat crystal. Water resistance on the watch is 100 meters. And here is a look at the blue on wrist. I'll pop up some wrist shots with the other colors here too, but I like the watch. Bit smaller than what I usually go for, but I like the look. I'd expect we'll see more versions of these down the road. Maybe not to the extent of the 5KX, but I'd imagine they'll add more colors at some point if these three aren't quite for you. Cost for these is $395 USD, and I know Seiko pricing. I would love to see the prices from 8 or 10 years ago back to on Seiko, but I could say the same about just about anything it seems these days. Otherwise, I'm a fan of the release. With the size, they're probably not for me, but same as the old versions, this is a great watch for somebody maybe just getting started or even a battle-worn watch collector that just likes the style. Thanks again to Sam down at Gem Bijou for lending these in. Fun getting some time with them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.